right, so today we have Rob Volk, the founder and CEO of Foxbox Digital, which is a digital product agency. How's it going, man?
Hey, very good. Good morning. It's going well.
Good, good. So let's kick things off and just tell the listeners about your background and how you found this passion for trying to tackle technology problems.
Yeah, certainly. My name is Rob. I'm a software developer by trade. And I started Foxbox Digital about 3.5 years ago. Really to help clients build awesome things, right? So, I'm a software developer. I like building things, and I wanted to create my version of a modern digital product agency.
That's awesome. So in your as I kind of prep for this and read a little bit about your background, it looks like you've been doing this software development in different forms. You're a serial entrepreneur. Where did your passion for entrepreneurship come from?
I don't know. I've always had it, I remember being in college and reading, TechCrunch and Inc. magazine. And I was just like, I want to be on there. Like that's my goal. That's what I want to do. And so it's always been with me. I did a lot of freelance web design in college, and I learned how to deal with clients. I got stiffed one time for a few $1,000s, which is a big experience.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of experiences there. But it's kind of been with me for a while. It's been a goal of mine.
Yeah. It's like tangent. How did you deal with getting stiffed? I'm curious, because I know that's a thing that happens.
Yeah. How did I deal with it? I just kept on, insisting that they pay and hounding and this is crazy. This is $3,000. I'm a 19-year-old college kid. This is the most money ever that I'm not going to ever see.
Yeah.
But I realized later that I didn't do a great job setting expectations. I kind of sold them on something they didn't want. I was like, we just got to redo this whole thing. And he's like, I just want this little thing created. So I kind of went in and did what I wanted, not what they wanted. Yeah. So, in the end, there's a lot to be, I could have done things differently getting out there.
No, but I think that's an awesome lesson to learn early, right? Understanding what the customer is actually trying to solve, while at the same time kind of dealing with the pain of getting in your own way. So I think that's awesome that you learned that at such an early age.
Lessons are a lot cheaper when you're younger. They get more expensive as we get older.
That's a quote I'm going to use a lot. I can see that. Okay, so with Foxbox, tell me about. I like always asking this question. What was your first action, right? From idea to the first thing you did.
Yeah. So the first thing, I knew I wanted to start a consulting company. I had a long history in consulting for huge companies. I had a history with, and then I started, a company and was with small companies. And so, I knew I wanted to do consulting, kind of combining all that together. So my first action, really was to kind of define what I'd consult on exactly, Yeah. And I had two ideas. One was more high-level tech advising. So I would advise CTOs on how to deliver software more reliably, faster, et cetera. And the other one was custom application development. So just building digital products.
Right.
And the first thing I did was just meet with literally everyone I could think of. In Chicago, I just sat down at, Soho House at different coffee shops, restaurants. I just met everyone. And I was just I was networking, I was feeling out my ideas and floating my ideas, and I would pitch one or both ideas.
Right.
And one of them stuck immediately, so we went with that. And then now we're actually layering in the second idea.
Nice. So I like that. So talk to me about that process of just meeting with everyone and getting that feedback. Were these people in your network? Were these events that you went to? How did you kind of get your first testing group, so to say?
Yeah, they were all people in my network. Probably a couple people met through people in my network too. But they're all people in my network. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I started a network of my own called the Chicago Tech Leaders. So we're about 100 people in Chicago. We all have founded small tech startups or run larger tech startups in the Chicago area. So I started this company about 8 years ago. I mean, not company, organization. Yeah. And so I really had a lot of people to talk to start it out with.
No, that's awesome.
I actually, in that group, I actually met with a lot of my competitors. And in the digital agency world, we or someone said it like we're like pizza shops, right? You can have 100 pizza places. They're kind of in competition, but not really, because everyone does it a little bit differently, and really there's just enough demand to go around. Right. And so they're actually really supportive.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because I think as an early entrepreneur, in talking to folks, I think that when you have this great idea and you hear someone else is doing it, or you see someone else succeeding at what you want to do, that can be intimidating, right? So, like how did you deal with, knowing that your competition is going to be out there? They probably have a couple laps ahead of you, but still staying confident and true, sticking to the course.
Yeah, so that's a great point, because a lot of new entrepreneurs might, you're going to have an idea and you're going to think it's the greatest idea in the world, and then you realize that someone else is doing something eerily similar, and that might get you disheartened. But in reality, it's very rare to have a truly unique idea. There's probably someone else doing what you're doing, and I take the stance that that's more validation that you're on the right track. If you have an idea that's truly unique, maybe you're not solving a problem worth solving. Like Google was not the first search engine, right? Amazon was not the first e-commerce store. Shopify was not the first platform for e-commerce stores. Right. They all copied other companies and just did it with their own unique spin. I had the luxury of being really late in the game as far as like building mobile apps. So I started the company in 2018. So I was copying, others out there. I'm not claiming to do the high level of what we do, in a completely uniquely. We do it in a unique way. Yeah. But I didn't come up with the idea to build software for clients. So really, I was just learning, trying to learn from mistakes of how others did it. And I took everything that I knew about how to build software and applied it, to how we do things. So we call it the Foxbox way. It kind of packages it up every process that we have to build software in a modern way.
I love it. I also love that you're branding your philosophy, right? Like that is, I think that is underestimated in terms of building the kind of core principles and values of a company, where you know how you do something, you have your frameworks, your philosophies, and you brand it, because I think it gives you a little bit of ownership and pride behind it. I think that's really awesome that you do that.
Yeah, it's important. It's not only how we do things, but also kind of ingredients of our culture too, and like how we as Foxboxers act with clients and how we interact. And it's been really important. It kind of brands the culture. And so our people, refer to the Foxbox way. They talk about that in, when they're interviewing with us. So it is, I agree, it is important. It's awesome. And I definitely, I encourage you to, to new entrepreneurs to figure out what is, your culture and your unique things, and kind of brand it and package it up.
Awesome. So how many employees do you have? How big is Foxbox today?
We just hit the 70 person mark. So we're about 72 people today.
72 people.
And
awesome.
This year we doubled. So we went from 36 people to about 72. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, all right, my next question is going to be about challenges, but before we get there, talk to me about the experience of doubling your organization in 1 year. That couldn't have been easy or simple to do.
No, it was not simple to do. Yeah, I mean, coming out of the pandemic, I think there's been, not that we always think we're coming out of it, but anyway, whatever stage we're in right now, this year, I've definitely just seen, there's just been a lot of demand, and, clients are really coming to us, and we're honestly struggling to keep up. We're just trying to find the best people possible. There's been so many challenges along the way. First with finding the right people. And so we've actually built a 4-person dedicated recruiting team just to keep up with demand. And we're going to continue building that. But just as you can't, take a car and put a giant engine in it and nothing else, right? That's not going to be a very fast car. We have to think about, upgrading the suspension, the brakes, and everything. And so through the process, we've had to invest in, HR, in engineering management, and in a bunch of other areas to make sure that we're well-rounded and we have, all the key ingredients to let us grow at like a same pace.
Yeah. I can only imagine, one day you're serving as kind of the CEO, chief marketing officer, and chief HR officer, and all of a sudden the next day you're just trying to, hire someone else to do it. And how do you take your brain and your thoughts and, give them like, hey, this is the Foxbox way, now run with it. I can only imagine that was a good problem to have, at least, right?
It's a good problem to have. And I'm learning how to do it well. But this is my first time as a CEO. I've been a CTO, in charge of the tech org. But the goal here, and I'm still learning how to do it well, but the goal is, hire really awesome people, really smart people to own something, right? So heading up the engineering, heading up the product department, the delivery organization, and giving them autonomy while also giving them support and supporting them as they need. It's a really tough balance, and something I've learned over really the past year and a half is, how do I do that? How do I give autonomy and support? Because what I was doing before was abdicating, was kind of just saying, okay, go run. You have complete autonomy, and I'm just going to go do something else. And then at times I would even micromanage. I would just check in constantly. Hey, like we need to hire these developers. Like, where are they? And I would check in. I would get really anxious about it. Right. And so, that was a bad situation, and I actually lost. I lost leaders in my company from that. So I really learned the hard way, and trying to get to a place where we can, give autonomy, but also support as well. It's not just hiring smart people and letting them do their thing and going away. Like, this is a partnership and collaboration.
Yeah, that's such a good point. How, in terms of losing leaders, how did you talk me through that process of self-reflecting and being like, what do I need to change? Or is it this person just needs to leave? They're not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't my choice. And so, it was there's definitely a period of, you kind of go through the motions of, anger and fear and self-reflection and all of that. But yeah, I went through a period of like, what happened here? How can I get better? And and of course, it's not all me, right? There's two sides of everything, right? But what are the things that I can learn, and how can I improve for the future? So, I re-engaged with my leadership coach to try to kind of work on that stuff. And I just reflected on how can I do this better? And that's how I came up with like, oh, wait a minute, I was abandoning them and I wasn't supporting, and they were overloaded, and I didn't step in to offer help. Right.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about some of the business leadership and like books that I read about, entrepreneurs, and it very much sounds like this seems maybe a little esoteric, but it's like the process of becoming a better CEO, business leader is also the same process of just becoming a better person, right? Like the challenges of leading a team can be very similar to the challenges and experience of a marital relationship or a spouse or a partnership, right? You have to have a little bit of empathy, but then also self accountability at the same time. Does that resonate with you as well?
Yeah, 100%. I'm certainly trying to become a better person every day. And, I think my partner, Patrick, he really keeps me in line and calls me out when I'm acting like a jerk, more than, most people in my company would be comfortable doing. So there's a lot of truth to that.
Good. All right. So you've been in business 3 years, growing, I would say exponentially. What are the challenges that you're actively working on?
Yeah, right now it's all about scaling, obviously. So it's every challenge related to that. So just to take a mini tangent, back in the day when I started, we're an agency, and so we serve clients, we build things for them. When I first got started, I had a rule for myself that I wouldn't be building the actual software, because if I did, I would be in my happy place and I would just keep doing that and I wouldn't be able to grow the business. Yeah. So I needed to find people to do that, but I couldn't hire a bunch of people and then wait for the clients, right? Because otherwise I'd go out of business. And so in the beginning, the problem was perfectly timing, finding the team, the talent, with finding the clients, having them start. And they always say they're going to start soon, but you never know when a client is going to actually start. And so it was, a little bit of luck, a little bit of planning got us to where we can actually start and get this thing going. And now we have a similar problem, but it's kind of reversed. And so, it's more of like, can we find the people fast enough and kind of, figure out when to start the clients. But then with that, it's how do we also, scale the org. So right now, Doug's our VP of engineering, and he's got, 45 engineers, working for him. So that's like a lot of one-on-one set to have. And so how do we scale out the org so that everyone in the engineering team has the one-on-one support that they need, and they can focus on their personal growth.
Right.
So those are some of the challenges that we're working on, getting done. There's operationally, right? How do we get more efficient, more reliable there? Even staffing, a big challenge right now is how do we figure out who's going to go on the new projects that are coming up? It sounds like an easy problem, but when you have, 50 or 60, people actively on projects, you start to lose track of who's where and maybe who has some extra, billable time. So we're trying to figure out and solve how do we do that in an efficient way, so you don't have 15 people on a call for 2 hours every week.
Yeah. It's a slight tangent, and it's not off the list, but one of the questions that popped in my mind, I also come from a consulting background, so I know how much it's a business of timing and availability, right? Yeah. So at the same time, you're hiring very eager, hungry people, motivated people that have this kind of great balance of technical skill and interpersonal kind of client relations. How do you balance kind of career progression, desire to grow within the company and kind of grow yourself and your team with, I've got this client that just needs this thing, right? How do you balance those things? Because I would imagine career development is such a big thing for your people. How is that? How are you kind of addressing that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because they sometimes are at odds, right? They sometimes conflict. And, we have an engineer who has been doing this one thing for a while and he's awesome at it. So we're like, great, you're the guy to solve that problem. But he wants to learn something else that's related, and he can absolutely do it. And so those things are at odds. And, we we have to make a decision at some point. And it's, ultimately, we value growth. And so what it's going to come down to in that case is, we'll have to go to the client and say, okay, this person's going to roll off and we're going to have someone else roll on. And then we'll move him, into a place where he can, learn and train, and then do that new thing.
Yeah.
Really, okay. And the reality is, if we don't do that, we'll lose him. Right. And so we're working right now. There is absolutely career progression, but it's not like written down. And so what we're actually working on is, okay, what is that career path? What are the levels? What do we call them?
Right.
Where can you go? And there's like kind of 3 options. And then what are the things that you need to achieve to hit that? How do you know that you've hit this next level? Right. Right now it's more intuition, but that kind of makes people uneasy. They're like, well, I don't know if my idea of this is equal to your idea. And often it doesn't match up. So the first step is literally just to write it down. And we'll be rolling that out soon so that people can see what their career path is and know what it takes to get there.
Yeah, I love that you're leading with the value of, like, you're leading with your values, right? You value growth, so that's going to be the compass for your decision. I think that's great. That's the Foxbox way. I love it. And I think that, you're right. It could be very subjective on saying, hey, I'm a senior. No, you're not a senior. Like, what does that actually look like? And having those, competencies and expectations, I think, will help that for sure. But I just love the idea of, your values and you stick with that. And even if it requires you to have a tough conversation with the customer, you'll do that because that's what you stand for. No, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the action behind, saying that I value personal growth, that's the action behind it. Willing to say no to a client in order to support that.
Yeah. So we've talked about your growth and how you guys are growing at such a rapid pace. I want to go a little bit back to the early days and understand, your process, your challenges, your experience of getting your customers, right? As I did some research for the interview, like, you have some Fortune 50 customers, you have, customers that aren't as large. How did you land these big clients? How did you go about kind of getting such a wide array of clientele to support early on within 3 years? It's just pretty fast.
Yeah. I set myself up for success with it. I started, as I said, the Chicago Tech Leaders as a way to, not for this, but it helped, right? So I started as a way to really, as a tech leader myself, I needed support, right? I needed someone to turn to when I face a problem. When you're leading an organization, that you don't have a peer. And so I created an organization with a friend of mine, Kieran, to really solve that problem for both of us. We both wanted some support, and we figured maybe there's some other people out there who want it too. And so through that, I met some really incredibly smart people, and that served as the seed for referrals for my clients, right? So I built my personal brand. I got my word, my name out there, and people knew what I was capable of doing because I was building my last company, and they saw what that was. And so, when I went out there and started the business, again, it was just networking, it was meeting everyone's, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and just kind of marketing, what I'm doing and putting it out there. I certainly wasn't asking my friends, for work, but they would at some point, hear of someone else who, oh, hey, do you know anyone who does React Native? Oh, my friend Rob just started a company. He's your guy. Right. And that's how the early conversations went. I landed my first client relatively quickly, and they're still a client today. And but that was just fortuitous timing. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need like a website. I need all these basic, table stakes things so that, they can look me up and, I seem, probably more legitimate than I am at the time. And so I did all that, but, I will say I expected that hey, I'm gonna leave my last company. I'm gonna leave that, and then I'm gonna tell people what I'm doing, and then immediately everyone's gonna line up and with checks in their hand. And although I did have an initial first success, like there's a period of several months that there's nothing was happening, and I was getting really depressed and like down and out. I'm like, this is not working. I'm going through the gamut of emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of conversations, like nothing was, besides the one small client, like nothing was really clicking until it did. And I think like 4 months later, I got my second client, which is a huge Chicago company, acquired them for a whole bunch of money. And that was awesome. One of the executives there referred me to, built a telehealth mobile app for them, and we're still partnering with them today.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you got to get through that period of time where nothing happens and you're doubting yourself, and just if you believe in it, there's just keep going through it, and it'll come eventually. Who knows the timeline there?
Yeah.
But that's how it worked out for me, at least.
What gave you, in that kind of time period where you mentioned you were getting depressed, it was very, very slow, what gave you kind of the mental fortitude and the confidence to fight through? Were you at night looking at job postings being like, okay, should we go to plan B? Like how did you weather the storm?
No, I definitely wasn't looking at job posts. I knew that I wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted to run a business. So there was no doubt that that's what I was going to do. I think I just dealt with it. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, there was definitely some doubt and definitely some tenacity, and just like, let me just keep trucking forward. But it was like kind of, you're kind of like wandering in a dark cave. You're like, I've got to get out of this. I've got to find the light. It was more like, there's no question but to get out. And of course, I didn't know that this would absolutely be successful, but I knew that I would do something.
Right.
And so if it wasn't going to be this, it was going to be something else that I would start, as opposed to getting a job. That was just off the table for me. No,
I think knowing yourself and knowing what your non-negotiables, I think that's really good. Yeah. So we talked a bit about the anxieties of building the business, the stress, the challenges. How do you get away? How do you make sure that Foxbox isn't your personal identity, and you leave some time for Rob, you leave some time for your partner, you leave time for the other things in your life that you enjoy?
I'm just, I think, starting to figure that out now. It's tough. I mean, it is my personal identity, right? This is everything, and it takes, you have to dedicate a lot more time than if you did just get a 9 to 5, right? It just takes a lot more time, but more importantly, energy. I'm an introvert, and I'm, out there trying to please people on meetings, most of the hours of the day, and it's really, really draining.
Yeah.
And so, often I'm done with work and I just completely collapse on the couch. I'm just like, my brain is fried.
Yeah.
And so there's not much I can do. Some things I've read the book Deep Work, and it's about getting deep, uninterrupted periods of work. And it's very much a pipe dream for me personally. It's something that I instill on my company. I want my developers, for instance, to be able to do that. But for me, the takeaway was like, build in some relaxation points too. So, between meetings, right, I may just walk around, walk my dog. I may even just lay down on the couch and just read news for like 5 minutes, just something mindless to give my brain that break instead of going from like one thing to another. Like, you need those like mini breaks. yeah, on a personal side, this summer, I'm like, I need a hobby. So I need to figure out, I need to do something that'll recharge me. So I took up sailing and I learned to sail. I became a certified sailor and I bought a small sailboat. And
Nice.
it has certainly not been relaxing, at least in the beginning. It's just another series of lessons, but there are moments of like pure joy and relaxation in it. And so I think finding an active hobby for me was, I think that's helping with the balance aspect of the work-life balance.
No, I like it. I've picked up golf.
Awesome.
Similarly as it's nice to get outside. It's nice because I actually enjoy playing by myself more than I enjoy playing with people. I just like putting an audiobook in and just
Yeah.
enjoying walking around for a couple hours. But
I've got to try that. That sounds awesome, actually.
it's great. It's like, people always want you to play with them and, that's fun. But sometimes if you just go out, late Thursday afternoon or evening, kind of sneak in onto the course, they get you on and just audiobook or some soft tunes. Like that is for me, I'm an extroverted introvert, right? So I do get energy from people, but I love my alone time. And
Yeah.
so those couple of hours where, yeah, I'm not swinging it as well as I want to. So there's a little bit of challenge with it. But it gives me clarity because I'm not thinking about my to-do list. I'm not thinking about other things I need to do. I'm just really enjoying this thing that I want to get better at.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't have any kind of monetary value or revenue associated with it. It's just me trying to have fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I found golf's a lot more enjoyable when you don't keep score.
that is 100% true.
Maybe that's just because I'm terrible at it.
yeah, exactly. That's or you create these other games that distracts you from the fact that you're nowhere close to Tiger Woods as you think you are. You can dress like him, but you don't play like him. You've gone through this kind of process of leading companies. And you talked about the transition to CEO. What would you say was a misconception you had of being the leader of a startup or CEO before you took on that role?
So this is my, second time I co-founded my last company. I founded this, and before that experience, I really looked highly up at founders of companies. At the whole kind of startup thing. I thought it was all glamorous and parties and like, and I saw TechCrunch and Inc. I was like, wow, it's the coolest thing ever. And so I think the misconception is maybe around like the lifestyle. Like I knew you'd have to work hard, and there certainly were some really fun periods throughout that my journey, 10-year journey or whatever. But but like we my last company, we got on TechCrunch and Mashable and all these like tech blogs, and we celebrated as awesome, and I thought that was like, we've made it. You're on TechCrunch, you've made it, and certainly we had hundreds of thousands of people check out what we built and sign up and all that. But it was really like a flash in the pan. And so, a lot of the things that were, more, you kind of see them outwardly, like it's, they're nice, but it's really not the end all be all. Really starting a company is doing it every day. It's what you're in, what you're doing, and what you're creating. And all those other accolades are really nice for marketing and stuff like that. But it's I put a lot more value in until I actually got there.
No, that's a really good point. What about your business surprised you once you actually started it and you actually started kind of working within the four walls? What surprised you?
Probably how difficult it is to lead people. It's a difficult job. There's no formula to it. There's 100 things you have to maybe consider, and keep track of as you grow.
Other than experience, and I know you mentioned a leadership coach, what have you found to be the most helpful kind of form of guidance to, for you to develop into that?
Read a lot. So there's a lot of books out there. And so I've read some books like How to Have a Good Day, The Powerful Engagement, Measure What Matters, and a bunch of others. And these books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's a good one. Classic. Yeah. And so you're reading a lot definitely helps. There's like 100 little tips and advice. You're not going to put every one of them to great check. But I think just, collectively, the more you read it, it just kind of seeps in and you become more aware of these things as you go through life. And so that's been one form of training for me.
Yeah. So one question that I always like asking, just because I heard it from some book about, as an entrepreneur, you want to continuously work yourself out of a role, right? Yeah. So what was the hardest role for you to work yourself out of?
That's certainly been my plan, and that still is my plan, right? And it's it'll never actually happen, but by doing that, it allows me to kind of focus on bigger things, focus on the growth, and really focus on the things that I truly enjoy doing. Yeah. Probably the most difficult was heading up. Well, the most difficult and the most easy. So it was probably the VP of engineering role, the head of engineering. That's what I did in my past two jobs and really my whole life in some form. And so that was like the most personal to me, and that's the thing that I had to let go.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was actually really easy. So maybe it's not a good answer to your question, but it's actually easy because it's like, you're better at this than I am, and I'm ready for new challenges. And so I trust you to lead the engineering work, and here are my values. Here's my way of doing things. Here's how, kind of I had envisioned it, and want to see, what you have envisioned, and honestly, take the things that you like and discard the rest. It's fine, but I just wanted to share that. And then I let it go, and I was like, okay, I can focus on, leaning into the CEO role, and then other operational things and marketing. Right.
It's a great answer to the question. I'm fascinated by it because, as you described why it was easy for you, my immediate reaction when you said engineering, I was like, oh, that would be the hardest for me, right? Because it's so personal, and I know what I would do, right? I know that I have this core skill set, and I feel, as much as I would want to try not to, I'd have an expectation of what that role looked like. And I think that kind of dissonance would be challenging, to just let someone operate in that role in the way that they need to do it, without like letting my expectations get into it. So I think that's a sign of tremendous leadership, and like being able to just let go and say, hey, you're better than me at this. Like that's a very profound statement, especially if that's your specialty.
Yeah, you're right. It's difficult. And my first VP of engineering quit. so I learned a lot through that process, and I didn't do it all well.
Fair enough. Like you said, experience is the best teacher. So,
but I mean, part of it is making sure that, you find people that you see eye to eye with, that our visions are similar. So, Doug and me, like our vision for how to build software, we're aligned in that. So, I do trust him to lead, do his thing.
Awesome. All right. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, what's the question I should ask the next guest? But before I get there, I'm going to ask you the question that my last guest said I should ask. So what would you do if you had to shut down tomorrow and you could not start another digital product agency?
What would I do personally?
What would you do? Yeah, you can interpret the question how you see fit.
Well, if I had to shut down tomorrow, I mean, I don't know. I would have a lot of difficult conversations, a lot of confused people.
Yeah.
What would I do personally with that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like I've thought of like, what does retirement look like for me? And it's like it's kind of the same question or something.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably go into like investing and advising or something. Or I would just start up and do it again. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would probably do what I did last time. So I left my last company, and it was a company I co-founded, but I left it. We had pivoted the business, and I didn't align with the pivot because it just wasn't something that I knew deeply in myself. I just wasn't an area that I was familiar with. So I left and I really leaned into just building, and I went and I built a little side project idea that I had. So if things shut down for some crazy reason, I would go out and build something in isolation and just go build that for a couple months.
Nice. What does, this is two-part, personal and for Foxbox. What does Tuesday 5 years from now look like?
That's a great question. So, again, trying to hire myself out of a job. I'm very much in the weeds right now, in the business, not out of the business, as they say. And so 5 years from now, I will be, working on top of the business. Basically, the goal is to have, everything really running efficiently and, stress-free, and there's success at every step. Clients, et cetera. So in 5 years, I hope to be out there evangelizing, more public speaking, working on larger scale partnerships, and really, not being tethered to so many meetings all the time, right? I really want to have the ability to check in, but then focus on the bigger, more strategic initiatives. Yeah.
And what about Foxbox? What is that? What does the company look like 5 years from now?
5 years from now?
Yeah.
5 years from now, we're going to be at 500 people, and we're going to have expanded services, and just a super awesome, cohesive team that that loves doing what we're doing. So really, just a bigger version of who we are today. We're going to be efficiently operating machine.
I love it. I love it. What question should I ask the next guest?
I would ask them about the books. I would ask them, what books would you recommend, reading, or what are you reading right now?
Okay. What's your answer to that question?
Well, I already covered it earlier.
Oh, you covered Measure What Matters.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. That one was really just, if you don't know about it, it's just great for human interactions.
Yeah.
Power of Full Engagement. It's really good book about, it's from a sports psychologist, I think, or sports kind of like coach, but then moved over to like training CEOs like sports, like an athlete. And so it's all about energy management and, doing the things that give you more energy, providing, rest and recovery, and really being like an athlete at work and having that rigor and regimen. So that was an awesome book. Measure What Matters is written by Jim Dore, who worked for one of the greatest managers of all time at Intel, Andy Grove. And so he talked about Andy's OKR system, objectives and key results. Yep. And that's been really pivotal for us to align the whole company into the company's goals and have us all work to achieve things of both the company's goals and us as individuals.
Right.
That's huge and awesome. And then I'll tell you a quick anecdote from how to win friends and influence people. So when I was advising, I had to go into their office in River North, Chicago, and there's security guards there. And so for some reason I could never get a badge. It took like literally months and months and months to get a badge. And so I would have to go in there and they'd call up. And so what I started doing was I would ask the security guard's name and I would learn their names. And I would say, oh, hey, good morning, insert name, right? And also start asking them questions, build a personal relationship.
Right.
And then I did that with about half the guards, and the other half the guards, I was too busy or whatever, and I didn't. And so over time, 100% of the guards who I asked, I knew their name, they would let me up without the badge. 100% of the ones I didn't know the name, I saw them the same amount of times, they would not let me up.
That's fascinating.
Little things like that really do matter. And but little silly tips on how to win friends and influence people, it's actually important.
No, absolutely. Well, thanks, man. This was incredible. So many nuggets. I'm excited to start kind of carving out the lessons learned from this conversation. This was incredible. Thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video to be helpful, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. If you are an entrepreneur and want to share your story and be helpful to others, just shoot us the email at behelpfulpodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.